one of the things we're really excited about today is to frame this through the lens of opportunities for patient community engagement. And more specifically, how our rare disease community, so two of us here are speaking on behalf of the rare disease community, and then we're really honored to have the National Health Council here speaking on our broader community's lens. As Carter said, the goal of PDUFA was to figure out how to shorten product review timelines. The reason PDUFA happened was because during the HIV/AIDS epidemic, the HIV community activated and said it is unacceptable that we have so many people dying and we have so many products being developed outside the US, and there has to be another way. And so, as many of us know, the history was that the HIV community came together and shut down the FDA and activated. And this was the result, that FDA, Congress, and the community came together, the patient community came together and said, okay, we're going to find another way. We're going to do this differently. And so the Prescription Drug User Fee Act was the result of those discussions and that collaboration. And so it's really fitting that we come together and think about how patient communities have an opportunity to insert our vision into these negotiations. Now, Carter also talked about the fact that really the negotiators right now are the regulated trade, bio and pharma, and FDA. And then once they've completed their negotiations, they bring that commitment to Congress. But it is really important to say that all of those entities do engage with our patient communities and are actually required to do that, and also go beyond their requirements in talking to us and working with us. And so this is our opportunity to be meeting with all of you and sharing with you at this point what the priorities of the communities who are engaging together are for PDUFA. We also simultaneously, prior to the start of negotiations, many of us were working with bio and pharma and sharing our priorities with them. And then there is an ongoing engagement with the FDA that you should be aware of. And FDA has public stakeholder meetings with patient advocacy organizations that have expressed an interest in participating in the process, and those are monthly engagements, the next of which is actually tomorrow. So I have a timeline that sort of matches alongside Carter's timeline, and you'll note that my timeline picks up at PDUFA 5, because we are the Every Life Foundation for Rare Diseases, and it was PDUFA 5 that actually leaned into rare disease. And so while there was PDUFA 1, 2, 3, and 4 prior to that, at PDUFA 5, that's when really the negotiations started to lean into how could we innovate related to rare disease therapeutic development. And so I'm just going to expand a little bit on some of what Carter talked about, what was happening related to innovation. And there are some of us in this room that were part of those discussions at that time. So Carter already talked about PDUFA 5 was really the birth of patient-focused drug development. And I know many of us in this room work on patient-focused drug development and transforming that moment into a movement. And we've really been thrilled to see that expand. So it's more than just the workshops, the internally and externally led workshops. It's really been the expansion of how we transform patient experience into data and incorporate that into clinical trials and decision-making. But that it was also the birth of the breakthrough designation pathway. It's also where the accelerated approval pathway was first expanded to application in rare disease therapeutic development. Also very timely for this work is where the pediatric priority review voucher was expanded to application in rare disease, which is a very hot topic right now. Thank you to the House of Representatives this week. And we're pushing that momentum over to the Senate. And then also the benefit risk framework was established in PDUFA 5. So PDUFA 5 was an incredibly important moment and the beginning of, as I said, a movement for the rare disease community. Now, 21st Century Cures Act was not PDUFA, but I put it here on this timeline because it was passed into law in December of 2016, which was closely aligned with PDUFA 6. And the themes and what happened within 21st Century Cures were closely aligned with much of what was happening in PDUFA 6. So I just want to highlight some of what came from 21st Century Cures with direct application and that were really closely aligned with what had come from PDUFA 5 and building on that momentum into PDUFA 6. So that's where the patient experience data checklist, or the inclusion of patient experience data in product review, came from. Actually, I was with Janet Woodcock and the FDA commissioner the day that they were going over to the White House for the bill signing for 21st Century Cures, and Janet Woodcock made the observation that the signing of that bill would be the codification of patient experience and PFDD as a part of FDA's mission when that was being signed into law. So that was incredibly important that day. The expanded access policy and the integration of real-world evidence came from 21st Century Cures. And again, you're going to see that continue to be pulled through in PDUFA 6. PDUFA 6, for those of you who were here at the time, will remember that was referred to as a skinny PDUFA, there was smaller amount of, or fewer priorities in that bill, but all clearly still incredibly important. Again, strengthening PFDD, focus on real-world evidence, and clinical trial innovation, a lot of focus on adaptive trial design there. And then PDUFA 7, which is actually what we're in, so I have the years where PDUFA extends, and as Carter pointed out, we're really always in a PDUFA cycle, even while we're negotiating the next PDUFA, was a lot of emphasis on rare disease, a lot of pilots within the FDA focused on how we can innovate within rare disease. Also a pull-through from CDER, where a lot of these activities had typically happened, into CBER, and that was incredibly important to our communities as well. So at the Early Life Foundation, we are a coalition. We are a coalition of patient advocacy organizations and biopharmaceutical industry partners focused on rare disease. And so we have been working with the community to identify what the shared priorities are as we look to PDUFA 8. And so there is a copy of those priorities in that letter on the back table, and then you can find it on our website as well, if, like me, you don't like to walk around with a lot of paper. But I'm just going to highlight a couple of them right now. And you'll see it says early priorities, because we're continuing to work with our partners to refine these and build these out. We actually have an ongoing working group talking through these. And if you or your offices are interested in learning more about this, or actually talking to some of the patient communities and partners who have direct experience with any of these issues, we would be happy to help facilitate that as well. So our first one is we have been very grateful for those pilot programs that have come from PDUFA 7. We would like to see those be expanded on. We also, though, would like to learn more from what has come from them. We would like to see some of the case studies and the learnings from those be shared and disseminated. We are hearing from some of the industry partners that there's just not necessarily a lot even known about what came from those case studies. So before we can even build upon it, we need to learn more from it. We want to, of course, evolve patient-focused drug development. Patient-focused drug development is working. But we want to make sure that it's not just a single point in time engagement, but it's an entire pathway for opportunities for engagement within the agency. Also, within PDUFA 7, it was marked with more transparency and more consistency, but we, as a community, and should be familiar if you've heard us speak before, we are always calling for more transparency and more consistency, and we continue to do that in PDUFA 8. We are especially interested in opportunities that will enable more transparency into what data is informing decision-making in regulatory review that will lend itself to quicker, faster, broader eligibility and decision-making within the access environment. We also have been supporting the creation of a new mechanism called the Science-Focused Drug Development Meeting Mechanism. There's actually legislation called the Expert Act that's being led by Representative Matsui, and I see their office here. If you're interested in that, you can see Jackie. But this would be not to take the place of patient-focused drug development meetings, but this would be convenings that would help resolve targeted scientific questions that are not product specific, but that are pipeline specific, that would help move entire pipelines forward, where FDA and the disease community or scientific community could then come to agreement and help move the pipeline forward. For more information on that, see the Expert Act or see Jackie in the back. And then we're also very interested in establishing opportunities for earlier payer engagement. There's a model within CDRH that we would love to see be adapted by CDER and CBER. And then finally, innovations and post-market data collection, so that as innovative products are being approved, we can be facilitating patient and provider decision-making and have more information in that post-market setting to help ensure safety, help ensure decision-making, and ensure that the broadest population possible has access to those therapies. All right, thank you so much.